call the Horry County Solid Waste Authority regular meeting Tuesday, April 24th, 2018 at 5:30 to order. The invocation will be done by Mr. Lance Thompson, Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Michael Campbell.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for all the many rich blessings you bestowed upon us. Please forgive us for all our sins. We know there are many. Please remember the family of Mr. Dan Gray, our board member who recently passed away, and guide us and protect us and help us to make good decisions for the citizens of Horry County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we need approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda's been approved. We need to approve the minutes of the March 27th, 2018 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We have approved the minutes. In memorial, as you mentioned in your prayer, our board member, Mr. Dan Gray, has passed away. Mr. Knight?
Thank you, Ms. Creech. I will start the program out, and hopefully some of the other board members will have comments they'd like to make. I worked many years with Mr. Gray downtown here, and he was a very unique person, to say the least. Mr. Gray's first term here was very controversial, I may say. We debated a lot of things. And I think the biggest pastime Mr. Gray had was the debate. He loved to debate here, downtown, coffee shop, wherever. Now, his second term, it was a 180-degree turn, and I wished I had the answer on what made that turn, but he still questioned, he still debated, but he supported the staff, the budgets, the programs, and that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn is try to get through with Mr. Gray was the fact that he always felt like that the private industry could do it better, and he questioned our tax exemption because it was kind of it wasn't fair to the private side, but what was fair with the tax status was it was fair to the people of Horry County and the ratepayers and the cities, because we got very low rates. But he supported our employees, our programs, public relations, and those things. And the debate was key to Mr. Dan Gray. I think that at times that he changed his position on certain things at times because everybody was in agreement. And I've seen him change to go to take another position for the debate. And I must say, he was good at it. I learned to communicate with him. I wasn't as good of a communicator with emails as he was, but we learned to be ready. And with the emails and the debate, it made us a better staff because we knew at any time that debate would come up. And we had to be ready, we had to be prepared. And we told them all along, there's no problem with questions being asked to this board, by the board, to the staff, because I think that's one thing that we've finally done out here. We've opened it up. It's very clear. There's no secrets. Everybody can see everything that we do. Mr. Gray's last couple of years, they were very enjoyable, more enjoyable. But I saw something at the funeral that I never saw, but working with him. It was his attitude and his smile that he showed when he was with his children and grandchildren. He and his family spoke of that at the funeral, that he was a very unique family person. And the Gray family and Dan Gray family touched a lot of things in Ouray County, at the beach. They made it a better place to live, work, and play. And I'll miss him in more ways than one. Thanks.
I agree. Mr. Dan Gray was a good business person. He was born and raised in Horry County, and he loved Horry County. You did learn a lot debating with Dan. I learned a lot of words. He was a wordsmith, and I heard a lot of words I'd never heard before and learned the meaning. So it was enjoyable. We will miss Mr. Gray. If any other board members have anything to say.
Dan was an historian. I've lived in the county for 15 years. I've only been on this board for a year, but I've known Dan for more than a decade. And he would always share some interesting information, I thought, because I could understand better where we're coming from, knowing more about the history of Horry. And I mentioned this to some of his family members at the wake, and they laughed, and they said, yeah, he would volunteer information about the history, whether you wanted to hear it or not. And I said, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but one thing I can tell you about Dan is I know that he is not resting in peace.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, you know, when Dan was appointed to the board, I was happy to hear that, because I thought Dan would ask the hard questions and would be a good debater and bring issues to the table. And I was certainly part of that first term when it was very controversial, and I was really pleased that Dan became very supportive and really was on the side of the Solid Waste Authority and doing the best for the citizens of Horry County. So I'll miss him as well, and I think a lot of folks don't realize how much he did for our community, he and his entire family, and I made sure to mention that to the family during the visitation. But you know, the time that Dan spent here was interesting for us, and I think it challenged us, and I think we're better for it. But I was really glad that he came to our side of the table in supporting the staff and the board and the mission of the authority, and became a real true supporter. And I'm going to miss him as well.
Dan's term and a half was very interesting, and we're going to miss him. He did do a lot for Horry Solid Waste Authority and for Horry County, city of Myrtle Beach, and but we'll miss him, sure will.
Most of my time with Dan was from over there. I used to be the Highway 90 liaison and came to just about all the meetings that they had. And so I had the opportunity to actually see him in action. And when I was on the board with him a very short period of time, because I wasn't that long. But one of the things he said to me was, don't be afraid to ask the questions. And I think in every situation, you need people to ask questions. And while some of those questions may be irritable, we need to be able to ask those questions. And I think that's what Dan did, and I think he was a master at that. asking those questions. And so I learned a lot from him just by sitting and watching. And so if there are questions that I need to ask, I think back at Dan and I ask those questions. So I'll miss him for sure. I knew him before that, but I did not know him as well until I became a part of the Solid Waste Authority, so I'll surely miss him.
One thing that Mr. Gray and I debated a lot of times on different sides of the debate, he would come, he said, Mr. Knight, I've buried the hatchet. I'm through with the fight. Month later, he'd be back. I said, you've dug that hatchet back up. We would have another one. I buried the hatchet. I said, let me bury it this time, and you won't know where it is. But he was a unique individual and served on the planning commission for many years, and I saw the debates there just about every meeting. But he was that was his sport. Thanks.
We will close this meeting in memorial for Dan Gray. Thank you. We do not have any public input, so we're going to go directly into the departmental reports and updates. Recycling and corporate affairs will be our first.
Good evening. My report begins on page 11. Cecil, would you forward the slides, please? Before I get started, I will say, with regard to Mr. Gray, the staff of the Solid Waste Authority will all truly miss Mr. Gray. And after he passed, I sent an email to certain people in the state that I knew Mr. Gray just from their conversations they had with him at various functions. And just about everybody replied back that, wow, we're going to miss Mr. Gray. So that was good to know that, he didn't just affect us here in Horry County, but his touch was statewide. So all will definitely miss him. We're going to begin with a presentation of our 2018 high school scholarship recipients. You see, we have a large crowd behind me, which is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. This year, we received the most applications that we have in the history of this particular scholarship. We received 37 applications. We awarded 15. So it was a good field to have that many come in. Not so much for the committee who had to read them all. So I do want to do special thanks to the committee who read each one of these and came to these determinations. As I read your name, please stand and remain standing. Caitlin Ward from the Academy of Arts, Science, and Technology. Gabe Brown from the Academy of Technology and Academics. Trey Richardson III from Aner High School. Michaela Chapman from Carolina Forest High School. Caitlin Davis from Coastal Leadership Academy. Jordan Barnes from Conway High School. Alexis Penapinto from Early College High School. Michaela Major from Green C. Floyd's High School. Jordan Guion Brooks from Loris High School. Jamison Smith from Myrtle Beach High School. Lauren Hershelman from North Myrtle Beach High School. Ethan Wester from St. James High School. Alexis Tomlin from the Scholars Academy. Hannah Williamson from Socastee High School. And Will Bidding, who represents our Solid Waste Authority Scholarship from Conway High School. Well, let's give our recipients. I told them I would definitely give them the opportunity to address the board if they desired to do so. I told them it was not a requirement. I'm gonna move.
You didn't say I'm kind of nervous. All right. I think I speak for a lot of us when I say thank you, because like, regardless of your financial situation, college is getting more expensive. So like, anything can help. So we want to say thank you.
I just want to say thank you. It means a lot to be able to represent y'all and this organization, so I thank you.
I would just like to say thank you for this opportunity.
I would also like to say thank you.
I'm Hannah. I'm going to join the train and say thank you for investing in me and my future.
I would like to thank all of you for participating, and we expect you to go out and save the world. No pressure, no pressure. Thank you.
Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations to each and every one of you, yes.
I also promised them that they didn't have to stay. Yeah, I know, right? I told them I had to, but they didn't have to. So if y'all would like, oh, see, look, I didn't have to tell them. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. wish
We
all
thank
of you
you,
well,
we
too.
thank the teachers as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I think so.
It's awfully lonely in here now.
Oh, come on.
Okay, here, the bow tie.
Lance, as we sat down, was pointing up to the figure of how many scholarships we've awarded here. That's a very impressive figure.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yes,
How much?
128,000.
Isn't that something to be proud of?
Oh, absolutely, something to be proud of. Yes.
Okay, we're going to move right on along. This past Saturday, we held our tire buyback event. Just as a reminder, this was a part of the Waste Tire Grant. We requested funding to hold this event. It was held this Saturday. We were here on site from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., waiting for our residents to bring us in some tires. And we did have some to come out. We had about 33 people to come out and bring tires, collected about 315 tires, just over 3 tons of tires, and distributed $614. So we had some who were a little bit upset that we didn't do this all the time. But we told them maybe next year. It all depends on what happens with our DHEC grant. So we did do a little better than we did last year, so that was definitely a plus. Didn't see any of you all, so I'm guessing y'all didn't have any tires in your yard. So
You spread yourself kind of thin.
we were all over the place. We were, but you know, we've got a great staff, and Kendra was up at Carolina Farce, at Carolina, at the Earth Day at the Bay event with several of our scholarship recipients, and we had one scholarship recipient here. That is something they have to do. They have to do some community service with us in order to obtain their scholarship. So, we were at Baby Animal Day on Friday. It's just been a busy week, but it's okay. That's what we do.
It is.
That's what we do. Speaking of grants, we just completed our grant applications, sent those to DHEC. We're requesting a total of $216,120 in grant funding. We will hopefully know about this, about their decisions no later than about June 1st. So
Just to remind us, how does that compare to the previous year?
I think last year it was a little bit less. I think we applied for about 187 comes to mind, 187,000. And it all depends on what they offer.
Right.
And what costs we might foresee. Some things are pretty consistent. We consistently ask for waste tire money, and we consistently ask for used oil money. But they'll offer some additional solid waste grants that we get to kind of finagle with a little bit.
Thank you.
Our Clark Green Handed recipient for, excuse me, for the month of March was Mr. Tim Brady. Mr. Tim Brady was is a recycler at the Carolina Forest Recycling Center. He is happy. You can't tell from his picture, but he's very happy that he was chosen as the recipient. I just had a couple of things. I left some things at your place setting. One was our latest edition of the Recycle This newsletter. Hope everybody has a chance to look at that in your free time. I left you the agenda for the South Carolina SWANA Conference, which is coming up the second week of May, May 7th. I didn't look at my dates before I came up here.
Through the 10th.
Thank you. May 8th through the 10th. Everyone who asked to be registered has been, so that's been taken care of. And I think the last thing I left on your place setting was our Smart Gardener Workshop. We'll be doing that on May 16th and 17th. So if you have or know of anyone who might want to attend, please, by all means, have them call and ask for Cecil. And that's all I have, unless you have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Finance and Administration.
Good evening.
Hello.
The financial reports begin on page 20. We are now through 9 months of this year, so we should be at around 75%, of course, of our budget. As you can see, we are running a little bit below that in our solid waste and, of course, in yard waste. But mixed construction, of course, as you can see, is well above at 122.41% of budget. We're hoping, like I said, that as the tourist season starts to pick up a little bit more, we will see some increases, of course, in the solid waste to kind of get us back in line with our budget. As you can see, the recyclables are at 81.25% of budget, so they are staying well ahead of budget, which is great. As you can see, the year-to-date revenue for the C&D processing facility is $267,465.52, with expenses being $448,804.62, which is a deficit of $181,339.10. But of course, they've saved a little over 55 days of landfill airspace just this year. The materials recycling facility, with the collection and hauling program, their revenue year-to-date is $4,256,600.08. Their expenses being $4,252,064.48. They have revenue over expenses of $4,535.60, and have saved a little over 44 days of landfill airspace this year. Like I said, I think that continues to be quite an amazing, if they can save that much landfill airspace with those programs. Over on page 22, just want to point out on our income statement, as you can see for month to date, we had revenue over expenses of $90,842.14, and year to date we have revenue over expenses of $2,468,415.71. As you can see, our revenue year to date, the percentage is 82.38% of budget. So our revenue is well ahead of budget, and as you can see, our expenses are only at 72.3% of budget. So again, staff is doing a great job of keeping those expenses well below budget. So we're continuing to operate in the right direction for sure. Over on page, get there in just a minute, on page 30, I just wanted to take a look at our C&D processing facility, and I know Mike may talk about a little bit of this as well, but they did a really good job in the month of March, as you can see. They brought in 1,364, I'll make sure I read that right, I'm reading it right. Yeah, 1,364.10 tons of material, which is a significant increase over there. Like I said, you can kind of see where the average had been running. So they're doing a great job of sending the loads over there and getting it processed. On the bottom, and like I said, I always attribute this to Mr. Gray because this is the one thing he always wanted to see is what percentage of trucks were going over there on the hill. And as you can see, we've had a significant increase. 15% has gone over to the C&D factory and 85% up on the hill. So and Mike and his staff are doing a great job of sending those loads over there and getting that up for you. Going to look over at the MRF on page 34. And I'm sure some of you have heard this in the Finance Committee. And again, I presented this morning at INR. No questions were asked. Like I said, they totally understand the market going up and down. Like I said, and I know Mike will get into this as well. Like I said, he does see an increase this month in our price. Our average price has gone up, which is great. As you can see, we had a significant decrease in March, with our average price only being $104.87. Last month, it was $127.60. So we've significantly seen it decreasing, but we are seeing an increase this month. Also, the tonnage sold. We only sold a little over 2,000 tons this month, where last month we sold a little over 2,500 tons. And there again, that's Mike trying to watch the market, try to get it out at the highest price, but also we had a little bit of difficulty getting it out last month, where we haven't seen that as much this month, thank goodness. So as you can see, we did actually bill Charleston $85,921.75. So with what we billed to Charleston and the revenue we received from the material, our total revenue for the month was $304,040.12, with our expenses being $396,535.54. So we did see a deficit this month of $92,495.42. We did have some additional expenses this month associated with doing some of the extra lighting, and we also had a couple repairs on the overhead doors that we did not anticipate. So that's part of why our expenses were a little bit higher this month as well. But year-to-date, as you can see, our MRF revenue year-to-date is $3,687,801.16, and our expenses are $3,157,686.21. So year-to-date, we have revenue over expenses of $530,114.95. Still doing a great job over there, watching everything, and like I said, and selling it for the best price. Wanted to update you on the page 38. I included this. I know Mr. Ives had asked us a quarterly update on where we are on our capital expenses. So I highlighted for you in there the ones that we weren't on the last update. And as you can see, we did purchase a compactor. We had budgeted a little over 1.1 million for it. As you can see, that came in well below budget at $1,094,537, which is great. Same thing with the electric pump. As you can see, we had budgeted $85,000. We actually purchased that for $54,332. Again, well below budget. Like I said, staff does a great job of watching those expenses. And on the last page, on 39, you can see that they ordered a diesel gas fuel tank, where we had budgeted for $7,500, and they actually got it for $6,802. So, like I said, I can say that we're trying to get everything at the best price possible. The last item I have for you is on page 40. This is actually our quarterly transfer, and this is through the month of March. As you can see, we have $1,485,479 that we can transfer. As I mentioned to you at the budget workshop, the two designated funds that we need to put that money into is our general construction development account and our equipment replacement account. So that's what I kind of did. I tried to almost do kind of an even split, but I'm requesting that the board approve us to transfer these funds to construction development of $785,479 and to equipment replacement $700,000. If you have any questions, and if I can just get your approval on the transfer.
Do any of the board members have questions for Ms. Bidding?
I make a motion, we approve the transfer.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Operations?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Enjoying my new job. I do want to take a minute and thank Wayne and the landfill staff. They made the transition real smooth. It makes it real easy when you got good qualified people to help you move forward. It works real well. The people at Murph has done an excellent job as well. And it showed up really today. If you notice, I wasn't at the budget public hearing, and the reason for that is I had a company from China. They came in to inspect the material. The people that bought it this year sent a company in from Hong Kong to look at our material, and we got an A+ rating on our cardboard. So
Congratulations.
That was a,
Congratulations
that was a
on that.
direct,
Yeah.
that was a direct reflection on Rodney and his leadership and the MRF management for doing that. They did a good job to make sure they passed that inspection well.
Mike, explain to them what they did to inspect.
Well, they come out and they look at all the bells you have, and they probe each one of the bells, and they look how you process it and how you inspect it as you go through it, what procedures you have in place, and then they go randomly pick bells out, and you go weigh them, and they bust them open on the floor, and they say, yeah, they good or they not, and it kind of made me feel good when they busted open. The guy said, a lot better than I thought they was gonna be.
Really? Oh, right.
He said, I really didn't think they were gonna be that clean. Typically, what China's wanting is a 0.5%. He rated it a .003.
Wow.
Mercy.
So, that news will travel quick. And
How much warning did they give you they were coming?
they actually told us, last week that they were coming yesterday and then showed up today.
Showed up today.
Yeah.
How often have they done this in the past, or is this something new?
We had one that came in one time out of the blue and showed up, and he went through it like a whirlwind, did not bust any of the bells open or anything. And it kind of upset me because he rated us and didn't even bust a bell open to look in it. But this time they came through, and they wanted to see the process. They videoed the process, how we handle it, how we inspect it. One of the big things they liked was that I set up a procedure a while back that the person that sets it off of the baler has a color, a paint color, and he has to put that dot on it. We know who that paint color belongs to. And then the supervisor has to inspect it, and he makes his color on it. So you get, before it can be stacked or shipped, so it's double inspected sort of taking ownership is what we're trying to do, is give them ownership. You know, they take pictures. If they ship it overseas and it's bad, they take pictures of it. That paint mark's on it, you know who it belongs to. So it has worked real well. They like that. But got the email right before I walked in here and said A+ rating. So good job to the people at the MRF.
Yes.
Good job.
Was there a language barrier at all, or can you speak
He
Chinese?
he was talking, but he got lost. He was over there in Carolina Forest, and trying to tell him how to get here was kind of tough. When we tried to tell him how to enter it, he said, "The Garmin don't give me that address."
Have you been studying Cantonese?
He was, sir?
Have you been studying Cantonese?
No. I'm a little too old for that one. Too far to start over, but it was really pleasing to see that, you know, and another thing like the like the landfill, for instance, I had my first landfill inspection. Lady showed up and come out and inspected us, and we got an excellent rating inspection on the landfill. Wayne and them have done a good job, and even with the wind blowing, she didn't even have any litter to write up. So
Really?
we thought that was an excellent job by our staff. I got to try to replace Bill. You know, Bill was always up here. He was always positive. They told me I had to get positive instead of negative all the time. So had some big shoes to fill there. But anyway, you know, as well as you know, we took over the collection and hauling part for the Myrtle Beach Recycling, and we're in the process of getting all that done, getting all those contracts signed up and all that. That's going well. And we'll be talking to you later in the meeting tonight about some additional cardboard routes.
Any surprises in that takeover?
It was not, other than there was more cans out there than he said. He didn't have all of them listed. Come to find out, what he had done is basically he ran that route that he sold us, or the cans that he sold us, and he run it from memory. So we started getting calls, but where the agreement was written, it was a plus or minus a set number. So if there was a increase in them, they still belonged to us. And I think we've found 5 or 6 additional containers out there that was not listed on his routing. So it's going well. So we're just getting a lot of cardboard into the MRF. We're being told that when he shuts down, he's shutting down next Monday. Will be his last day of operation. We're getting more material from other haulers already. That's a higher volume. That's 500 additional tons, excess of 500 additional tons per month is going to be coming into the MRF. We were pretty well maxed out. We're trying to come up with a plan how we're going to handle the additional tonnage, because not only is it coming from what we're bringing in, but we're having haulers bringing it into us now. So, so a lot of that's gonna be coming from there. That was taking it to him.
And that
So-
was new haulers that were hauling to him?
Well, it was
Coming-
actually existing haulers, Waste Industries, Waste Management, Lee Disposal. Those people that were hauling to his MRF has now started migrating towards ours. And so all that additional tonnage of cardboard, mostly cardboard. And there's gonna be some office paper as well brought in, so, there'll be all of that into play. This been coming into the MRF, and we gotta try to figure out how to handle that additional volume. So we run about 1,200 tons a month, 1,200 to 1,300 tons of cardboard that we sell. So we're gonna add about 500 to that. So, just looking at some way additional tons. Give you some ideas on the material recovery facility pricing. In the month of March, we were at $78.91 for OCC. Last year, at the same time, we were at $192. In the month of April, we sold it for $119. And everybody I'm here telling me in the market, those prices are unheard of. Mr. Giuliano told me he was selling his for $60 a ton. So, and his is a hand sort, which makes it a higher quality. Wet, which is all the rain, because they have wet, we're only getting $55 a ton for anything wet. So when it rains, we sort of cringe because we know the materials coming in is going to be wet. Newspaper, we saw a tick up in it in April. As you can see, it was $29 for March. We got this a tick up of about double that, $62. So it went up in April. And our office paper went up about $3 a ton from 202 to 205. One of the biggest jumps we had this month was aluminum. Aluminum, last month I held some aluminum back, which kept the pricing down last month, but it went up $300 a ton this month.
It dropped this week.
Huh?
It dropped this week.
Yeah, it's dropped this week, but what we've sold 2 loads. I would only sold 1 load this month. We sold 2 loads at $300 a ton additional. So,
That's good stuff there.
well, that was just being able to hold it back, you know, and be able to get it out. Also, as y'all aware, Bill did before, is the landfill project. We've got the gas project going on at the landfill. We got a lot of things installed and everything, but we actually signed the substantial complete project Monday morning. They worked through the weekend up to about 8 o'clock Sunday night to do the gas well system, and got it all just, it's like when it's substantially complete, that means we can make it operate. It can pump, you can get gas. That don't mean it's completely covered or it's completed, but it's substantially complete, and that is up and operating.
And this was the targeted date, so they met the date.
Well, we had rain days, like they got a rain day for Monday. So we looking to be totally complete by mid-May. That means they'll be off the project. The rain will change that date. You know, we had to add about 3 or 4 days in the month of April so far for rain days. So every time there's a rain event, it extends that date 1 day later. So, but we're working forward with that. The C&D recycling of the quarter, Bill did these before he left, so I get to do them, and he didn't present any last month, so I get to do it this month, I guess. Danny Schreier, is that what you say that? Works with Unlimited Sanitation. He brings a lot of stuff over and has brought a lot over to the C&D recycling facility, and that is he's a recycler of the quarter. And for February, Delmer Shaw, which is a SWA driver, got the driver of the quarter, or driver of the month for February. Delmer's been with us for about 7 years, but actually he's worked with me in some form or fashion since 1987. I tell him he can't get rid of me. Everywhere I go, he show up or I'll show up. So we've been around together for a long time. About like Susie, just can't get rid of her. In March, for Darrell Smith on the landfill, he works with us real good, and he was chosen by the landfill staff as driver of the month for March. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you got.
Board members have any questions? Any suggestions?
Questions about the future market. Any other indications about what prices are going to be doing?
Anybody I talked to said prices are pretty much stagnant for fiber, unless you got a good product. You pretty much, a good quality product, you're not gonna get, it's gonna be hard to get rid of it. I seen one number said that it was costing $20 a ton to get rid of news. So when we selling ours for $20.62, it makes you feel pretty good.
You had a suspicion that markets would start opening up in India. Is that happening?
It's not, because everything is headed towards India, Indonesia, Thailand, and Central America. So everything's just left China and moved that way. That's why I felt so good about getting this good grade from China today, because it came from China, Hong Kong. So maybe that'll open up the market for us there.
Keep us there.
Yeah. But it's tough to keep that quality. It is real tough, takes more manpower, more look, and a whole lot more stress.
I like your system of identifying colors that makes them show pride and
Pride and ownership in what they're doing.
responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can identify real quick with that markings also.
Yeah, it works real well. It does work well.
Is there any equipment that you know of that would help you?
Well, you know, we're gonna be putting together some bids for our, next year's bid packet. Next year's budget for the, some of the ballistic sorters and some of the things like that. And once we get the ballistic sorter in, we're gonna upgrade the system. Then we have any more money, we'll look, see what's available out there for what we got left, and then we're gonna try to do as much upgrades as we can for what we have in the budget.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Executive Director.
Thank you, ma'am. This, we got a letter this week, from Charleston, about, contract, and, there's a schedule on the second page of it that, shows you what we have to do by a certain time, third page, so, it's going well, there's no problems, the only problem is the market bottomed, and they're gonna have to pay for their portion. Of course, they're not paying for our portion when the prices go down. So, I'll go ahead and get their letter to them. And that'll be their final extension, and that'll put them through, January 31st. We'll have to have a new contract developed with them to get them to April, May for their completion of the building.
This is just till January.
Yeah, this is the end of January.
And what is their, what is their completion date?
April, May timeframe, something like that. Okay, we had, as Jan said, we had the INR this morning. We left here, got back here, and there was about an hour time, drive time, for presentation time, the whole deal, so it went fairly well. I did give them the packet of information on Grand Strand Water and Sewer, the property, and told them it would be coming to our committee, our board tonight, and recommended if they could to go ahead and forward it to county council on the consent agenda, and we'll go ahead and move that forward. But there was no questions on that whatsoever. The House bag bill that's going on at the Capitol, 3529, time's running out. There's about 7 more days of the session. I understand from Wayne Beam today, there's a push to really get it voted on this year, and I thought that it would made down the vine this year, but it appears that the bag companies are
Working on all the opposition
full court press. So, and we're doing what we can do and getting information to the ones that we can get them to. Hopefully, some of the people at North Myrtle Beach that's interested in it now will maybe get up with the politicians on that end. That's my report.
Are there any questions, comments? of Mr. Knight? Okay, we'll go to the committee reports. Finance Administration Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Administration Committee did meet on April the 16th at 10 a.m. with myself and Mr. Ives present. In addition to an update on the MRF, which we've already heard about, there were two other agenda items. Mr. Bessent reminded the committee that Waste Industries was no longer in the cardboard collection business. Also advised that Myrtle Beach Recycling had an agreement with Waste Industries to service their OCC containers. Mr. Bessent advised that Waste Industries had approached the staff about purchasing their OCC containers and setting up an agreement whereby SWA would service these customer containers. It's projected this arrangement could actually create a revenue stream and show a profit, but even if the arrangement breaks even, it will be well worth the effort to keep all this material out of the landfill. The purchase price for the containers would be negotiated with a not-to-exceed number that's already been discussed with staff. Our committee voted to recommend to the full board the recommendation of staff to enter into an agreement with Waste Industries on the purchase and service of the OCC containers, and I'll put that forth in the form of a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any questions?
Was there any more discussion, Mr. Knight, about the price of the containers? I know there was a number, but that was still going to be worked out, but it was not to be any more than that
No,
number.
That will be,
Right.
I haven't, we haven't done that yet.
Okay, okay.
Well,
You're going to have to pay for that.
There goes the windscreen.
that was it.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Is there anything we need to vote on that
Yes.
you recommended to us?
Yes.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I've made that motion, and it's been seconded.
Second.
That's
And-
right, we were
Call for the
discussing
question.
it. Call
Yeah.
for the question. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. That has been taken care of.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 2, Mr. Knight next advised that Grand Strand Water and Sewer Authority had requested to purchase a small tract of property adjacent to their current property along International Drive. There's been some appraisals completed for the property, which has some wetlands concerns. After much discussion, which included an executive session, the committee voted to recommend to the full board that Mr. Knight be authorized to negotiate the price for the sale of the property based on the recent appraisal, but not to grant Grand Strand Water and Sewer Authority a permanent easement as they had requested through the property that will remain owned by Solid Waste Authority. So they will have access to the property but not have a permanent easement. And I'll put that forth in the form of recommendation to accept staff's recommendation to move forward with this
We have a
transaction.
motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Yes, the easement, remains that's our easement. We just give them the right of way to,
Yeah, if you look on page 76, that's a picture of it. They have a curb cut in their existing property. They were wanting this permanent easement that runs parallel with our fencing, and that's what, I told, Fred that we wouldn't do that, but we'll work out something through there they can get back and forth through, because we don't want to cut the property off, if we ever need it to get to the rest of our property.
That was my concern. We were agreeing to a permanent access.
Right.
And cutting off our own property, and this gives us more flexibility in the future.
Sure.
And Mr. Richardson was present for our meeting, and we asked him about access. He currently has access from International Drive to his current wellhead site, and he said he would figure out how to deal with that access. And then Danny Knight did say that he would work with them on access to the site during construction phase and any future access they needed. We just were not interested in the permanent easement.
right.
Fred didn't seem to have a problem with that. If he did, he said he could work around it.
And all he needed was access for the construction right
I think
now.
it was his
Right.
primary concern.
Okay.
Any more questions, comments, discussion? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And there being no further business, Madam Chair, the meeting was adjourned at 10:36 a.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any old business? No old business. Is there any new business? Does anyone have anything for roundtable discussion? We do not have an executive session, so we'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Thank you, staff. Y'all have done an excellent job.